Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Alvarado Rivera, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as Chicago Freedom School's Executive Director. I'm so excited for you all to join us on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in Chicago. I trust everyone is enjoying the sun. Hopefully you can make it outside, put on a mask, a double mask or a KN95 mask, and protect yourself and protect each other. At Chicago Freedom School, as you can imagine, we have been extremely busy, and thanks to everyone's support, we've been out making sure that young people are supported and protected and cared for, and also bringing in groups of folks to strategize and make sure that we are ready for 2021. As you know, we have several youth programs that we do throughout the year. One that is ending is North Star. So we've been busy with our North Star team made up of training coordinator Shruti, a consultant Joanna, as well as two young folks and alumni of the program, Gabi and Lauren, working making sure that young people are learning about trauma-centered work and healing-centered approaches. So we're super excited for that. As you know, our youth organizers have been working with the Police Free Schools campaign, and we always want to make sure that we remain committed, even in these busy times, to create public programming that allows our community to build with each other, learn from each other, and share with each other. So thank you so much for being here. Today, I have the beautiful privilege of being surrounded, celebrating and uplifting femmes of color who are going to join you and talk about their experience in organizing. We're going to be moderated by Kristen Milliken, as well as a special performance for the afternoon. As we will set the day looking at a trailer from Judas and the Black Messiah, so that we have a little understanding of the film, as well as kind of where we'll be jumping off for today's conversation. So, technology, we're figuring it out. So what we're gonna do is hopefully play for you Judas and the Black Messiah, a trailer. Let's see how this works.
Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party. Repeat after me. You're looking at 18 months for the stolen car, 5 years for impersonating a federal officer, or you can go home. The Black Panthers are forming a rainbow coalition of oppressed brothers and sisters of every color. Their aim is to sow hatred and inspire terror. I will learn all that I can. These ain't no terrorists. You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Oh, chills. I get chills. And there's so much to explore, so much to dissect, and so much to critique, and so much to celebrate. But we only will have a little over an hour. So I want to move forward and introduce to you our friend at Chicago Freedom School, Kristen Milliken. Welcome.
Hi, Tony. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today with you. And I really want to thank you for creating the space for this intergenerational conversation with the youth that you are working with to help transform our culture in our society into a more just, more beautiful place to live for everyone. So thank you so much to you and the Chicago Freedom School. I'd like to start off today by introducing a poet, a young poet that Tony in essence connected us through the Chicago Freedom School. Her name is Jessica Gertrude Mascarenas. She is going to share 2 poems with us. She is a writer, a poet, a comedian, an organizer, and a tea maker based in Chicago, which I was so excited to hear about because I love tea also. She started her writing career in high school through Louder Than a Bomb. Yes. She is a recent creative writing graduate from Columbia College, where she was the publishing lab manager and a student ambassador of the creative writing department. She is co-founder of a mutual aid collective called Black Rising, which helps people with access to things like food, housing, transportation, and other resources. Is that right? Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
Gertrude, Black Rising? Okay, thank you. Gertrude works as an herbalist in training at Alkaline Healing Herbs in Chicago. And after being told she had an incurable disease, she healed herself from 44 centimeters of ulcers in her colon and now creates customized healing teas. I got to get down there as soon as possible. She's currently innovating ways to bring social justice, art, and healing together. And she's working on a project to help turn 5 vacant lots on the west side into community gardens while providing kids with their own gardening tools and the skills to cultivate their own foods. Gertrude, thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to tell everybody Gertrude is on break from work today. And her
I'm at work
nice bosses, yes,
Yeah.
let her join us for a little bit today to share her voice and her words on this really important subject that we're focusing on today. Thank you so much, Gertrude.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm going to get into these 2 poems. All right. Speaking of tea, this is about masala chai. On the corner of Navalu and Bunnyman Road in Mysore, a chaiwala named Manjana will sell you 1 cup of masala chai for 10 rupees. If he can tell you're American, 20. I told him they charge 289 rupees for a chai latte here. He didn't believe me, asked me, what the fuck is a latte? In a language my colonized tongue didn't understand. I've seen many poorly arranged marriages, none of them worse than British attaching their name to East Indian companies, than America dumping 342 chests of stolen tea in the ocean to protest taxes, has the nerve to call it revolution, as if we don't pay taxes on American dreams. My colonized tongue spits out Boston Tea parties. We need a reason to celebrate. Before masala chai was latte and frappe, before cappuccinos and corporate, when you were still fluent in Konkani. 1,576 classified mother tongues in the motherland, but here, if you drop a word in an unheard of language, does it even make a sound in America? Is this where dead languages go to die? My colonized tongue, a smart mouth. In this parody, I'm Kumar, and I'm spitting out White Castle, not spending a whole movie searching for it. I get the nerve to demand a refund. Citizen on boat never gets upgraded to citizenship. Parents might have been fresh off it, but these dreams still expire like spoiled milk in one of those damn lattes. Your father didn't become an engineer instead of a professional cricket player, so you could go to art school and smoke weed. I know the only green that matters is green card, just another tax to pay. Before a random check, before a 9, I mean 7, 11, fuck it, you know I meant both. Before karma became a commodity, when your father still spoke Konkani. Workplace promoted diversity, but workplace never gave promotions to diversity. He didn't get a job until he dropped his accent, shipped his language back home as a care package, please. Take care of my culture. They won't let me raise her in America. Never allowed to apply for dual citizenship. Learn to be openly American and a closeted Indian, half and half like my tea. If the cup of chai is half empty, fill the rest up with American cream. I mean, American dreams, half and half, but never full of either. Cow might be sacred, but will only ever count for 2% in their lattes. The chai without masala, without manjana, without chai wallas, without 20 minutes brewing in a brass vessel. Stolen name like stolen country, like stolen tea without the stainless steel cups. Don't you dare leave any stains. They always want my tea in a paper grande cup to throw it away when they're done. Never ordered for here, always ordered to go. All right. I'm gonna just get, oh.
Woo. Whoa. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at these comments. Straight fire. This is amazing. Thank you so much. And I believe are you going to share another poem with us?
Yeah, I wanted to share one more short poem because I actually wrote it last week based on a dream I had about the trees in Chicago. And so I thought it would be fitting for today.
Please.
Thank you. All right. In Chicago, they purposely plant trees shallow so they never reach their full height, never get to bury their roots completely. In my dream, even the oxygen feels sad. The trees insecure, knowing the birds will not create a nest here on their bones, knowing they are prone to be uprooted easily. They decide their roots must be legs, must be mode of transportation. I am on the train and there are so many leaves falling, thick thighs of trunks in every root and extra toe, bound to nothing, bound to no one. Yet every land, every soil, every piece of this earth, somehow theirs, somehow still warm, can never be cut down if I keep my roots on me. If every mountain of dirt is singing my name and every gust of wind scatters it in a different direction, I am bound to no one. No land is mine. I am bound to nothing. Still, every corner of this universe I have pulled you in, left you a breath at least. There is a map of your mouth stuck on a branch, falling somewhere, everywhere. A part of me is still exhaling. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to need a minute here. That was so powerful, so moving. Thank you so much, Gertrude, for coming here today and sharing your beautiful, powerful words. I'm so grateful for you to hear your voice today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for receiving me and this opportunity. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming out of work today, just popping out of work and coming in and joining us. I can't wait to hear more from you. I can't wait to hear everything that you have to say.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Ooh, okay. I just want to take a minute and breathe that in a little bit more because it's hard to just switch like that when you feel something so powerful. But we have even more for you to come here. And so next, I'd like to introduce another amazing young woman. Her name is Essence Jade. She is a current senior at Lindblom MSA on the south side of Chicago. She has lived in Chicago and resided on the south side for the entirety of her life, from Roseland and later to Inglewood. Oh, there she is, Essence. Oh, I love it. I love to see your face. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so let me just finish off because I want to say all the things that Essence has done, or at least give voice to some of them, because she is just amazing. The power and the strength and the beauty and love with Essence is so amazing. Her interest first began with climate justice and later shifted to social justice as she developed stronger community within the organization scene for social justice. Her work first began with the Chicago Sunrise Movement, then ILYCS she has also worked independently to support the CTU during the 2019 strike, where she helped organize her first protest. She joined the summer program with CFS, Chicago Freedom School, in the summer of 2019 and has worked as a CFS for 3 years now. As a former alum of the program, she now serves as one of the youth organizers, and her work is rooted in efforts to dismantle and fight against injustice on a racial, social, economic, and environmental level. Outside of organizing, her interests lie in reading, creative writing, and drawing. Ooh, I want to see some of these drawings, girl. Like I got to see some of these. Okay, so she'll be attending community college in the fall and majoring in political science. Yes, okay, this is great. Although Essence is open to whatever the future has to offer, she is currently aspiring to be a lawyer. So thank you so much, Essence, for joining us today. I'm also going to introduce right now Mary Scott Boria. Mary Scott Boria was a member of the Chicago Black Panther Party in the late 60s and early 70s, and has been a leader in the fight for justice for people of color and women ever since. She was involved in the anti-apartheid movement. She holds a master's in social work from the University of Illinois at Chicago. Yay! Her leadership in the Anti-Racism Institute of Clergy and Laity, excuse me, getting tongue-tied, Laity Concerned led her to seminary, where she completed her Master's of Divinity degree from the McCormick Theological Seminary in Chicago. She is the first executive director of the Chicago Sexual Assault Services Network, and the director of the Associated Colleges of the Midwest Urban Studies Program, and veteran board member of the Mikvah Challenge and of the Chicago Freedom School. So I thank you so much, Mary, for joining us today too. I don't see Mary. Where's Mary? Where's Mary? Go. Okay, well, there's Essence. There's Essence. Oh, yay, Mary! Woo! All right.
I'm not touching anything.
It's Tony's fault. Okay, so we can just say that right now. Anything that goes wrong is Tony's fault. So
thank you so much for introducing us.
Thank you so much, the two of you, for being here today. I thought that we could start off. We're going to get to the film in just a minute, okay? But I thought that we could start off by giving space to learning a little bit more about you both, and talk about how you both got involved. Like, what was your fire? How did you get involved in activism? That's one thing that I think the movie does just so beautifully, but also very subtly, is with like all the characters we see they have, very theatrically produced for a film, but like they have a moment that really it sparks their joy or sparks their love for humanity. And we hear that when Fred Hampton talks about, after seeing Emmett Till's picture, that he knew he needed to join this revolution out of love for Black people. And so I want to hear today from the two of you, what's your background? What brings you here today as activists? Essence, can you share with us that first?
Yes, definitely. So for me, I was in the 5th grade when Trayvon Martin was murdered. And so having that conversation and sitting with my teacher at the time and discussing like the details of it, and coming to the understanding that this was in fact America. So initially, like the idea of, you learn about the history of slavery, you learn about the Jim Crow laws, and you learn about all of that, and it seems so far away. So to have had that experience and to have felt that in what felt in a manner to me very close, to see a body that resembled in color and complexion and stature and all of that, my cousins or family in general, seeing somebody that was Black and young be murdered like that really stuck out to me. And having my teacher break that down to me in the way in which he did, and express his fear of even raising Black boys, his sons, and having these students, and not understanding how
frightening it was for him as an adult to not know what the future could possibly hold for his students or for his children alone. And having that conversation for me really stuck with me for a while. So at the time, of course, I was extremely young to physically, use my body to attend protests or anything of that matter. But for me, means of like education through like reading and everything was definitely like that's what I went to. And so as I got older and as the opportunities presented itself, I began to like utilize like my presence in general in different spaces as I saw fit.
Thank you so much, Essence. And I can like that was such a powerful moment for the nation, and to think about you as a 10-year-old watching this and impacted in Chicago with all your students and your friends, and thinking about how this person is you, and I can completely understand that would be a real awakening. um, Mary, would you like to share your story as well? I'd love to hear from you. How did you what inspired you to become an activist?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you. And I love the Freedom School, and I love meeting Essence Jade. She's an amazing young woman and so much fire there. And all the folks at the Freedom School, thanks for letting this old girl come and have this conversation with you. I actually got involved very early as a teen. And I was living in a small town, and we were protesting the discrimination of our local library. Blacks weren't allowed to get library cards at our local library. And my mother was in Chicago. My mother had actually been brought to Chicago by the family of Emmett Till. So she certainly knew, and that was after Emmett Till had been murdered. But she certainly knew, and she was the one that sort of inspired us to get involved in, at that time, the civil rights movement. And we came to Chicago for the first rally for Chicago Public Schools, and just decided we wanted to be in Chicago. So my sister and I hopped on a Greyhound bus without telling my dad we were coming to Chicago. We came to Chicago, and we kind of never looked back, even though now I feel a lot of nostalgia for that time, my time as a young girl. And I was a high school student. So my involvement early in the civil rights movement was really around the time that I was a high school student. And so I remember a lot of the Chicago Freedom Movement at that time. I would say I became much more radicalized and much more radical, and sort of thought of myself as much more of a radical revolutionary when I started junior college. I went to junior college at Crane Junior College, which became Malcolm X during the time that I was there. So we certainly were very inspired by the teachings and the life of Malcolm X. And soon after Malcolm X was murdered, King was murdered. So there was just a lot of fire, literally, happening in the city, and a lot of young people looking for sort of answers that the civil rights movement had kind of sparked, but had failed to sort of materialize. And so I just remember being very inspired. At Crane College, there was a group of us there that was a very small group of Black students who heard from and learned from Black nationalists, Black student leaders, the Black Panther Party. And I felt very much inspired by the Black Panther Party. I think a lot of that had to do with the charisma of Fred Hampton, but it also had to do with they were very action oriented. And so I found myself joining the movement as an 18-year-old and feeling very inspired by the work that they were doing in the community.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mary. I
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I meant to say this when I started, but I also want to give honor to all the young people then and now who sacrificed their life for the movement.
Mhm.
And I think that Fred Hampton sort of epitomizes that level of sacrifice. But there are also many young people today, those who've been killed by the police, as well as those who have put their lives on the line, especially this last summer, and had to experience the wrath of the system and the police. I think this talk kind of gives honor to their commitment.
Thank you so much, Mary, for letting us pause on that and think about like that is so much of what made why we're talking about this film, why this film was made, is like the incredible level of sacrifice that people have to make in order to be engaged in revolution, to change our system, to dismantle this heteropatriarchal white supremacy. It is bloodthirsty work, right? Like not on our side, but from the other side. And so we have everyone who gets involved makes sacrifices on a regular basis. You know, it makes me think, well, okay. So, so I love how you started talking too about your activist work, in your early days. Can you say more about how you were, like some of your earlier activist acts, or what were your what were your first or activist or organizing acts? And then also Essence, one thing that I heard you say that I would love to hear you say more about is the protests this summer, and Mary referenced this as well. Like, tell us about, like, there's so many parallels between what this film shows us and brings up in terms of what's happening on the streets and what's happening in response as a backlash, you know, and then you know, you were part of that. You were very much part of what happened in Chicago this last summer, and nationwide, worldwide is what we saw about in these protests. And so, and you were very much in the center of that. Can you share more about what was the agenda that point, you know, in your mind and in your mission at that point, and what was that like? What was that like to be out there?
So yes, this summer was definitely, it was a lot, to say the least. I'm still on so many different levels, attempting to find the words that can help me to even articulate like the depth of the experiences that a lot of like youth faced out there. And even thinking back on it, sometimes it gets like almost stressful in a sense. It wasn't easy by far. But again, understanding and being in community with people who all collectively understood like our experiences, our past, and like having and sharing like a mutual sense of like what liberation looked like and fighting towards that like collectively, definitely played a role in like helping to just fuel the movement. Because had I not been in like a better or had I not been in the community that I was a part of, that definitely would have deterred me. It was difficult from the first night when the bridges were lifted and when the CTA was shut down, from having CFS having to open their doors and the police coming and issuing the cease and desist order. None of that was easy by far to take in, and that was only the first night. So even going forward and like, you know, seeing friends get arrested and like staying out to like 12 for jail support and things of that nature, it was definitely hard. And on top of that, you had the media who demonized Black and brown youth and made us look like we were just tearing up the city as though there wasn't any message behind any of the work that we were doing. So it was a lot. It was definitely a lot.
Absolutely. And I don't I don't want to, bring you back into too deeply in a like a re-traumatization as you're sharing with us. I really appreciate you sharing what you have, because I can feel like the pain of that time period. Like, what do you feel like what was in your heart in those moments that brought you to the streets, that brought you to the protests?
There was a lot. There was a lot of mixed emotions. And of course, as time progressed, there were a lot that came and went. Again, I'm still to this day trying to find like words to even label them or to even work through like a lot of the experiences. But ultimately, just a strong desire for change led me out there, and understanding that, and just seeing how close it was, like everything is still happening, and the risk that it could still happen again, that this was nothing new, Black men being killed, and it was too familiar. It was tiring seeing that same idea, having the police out here just recklessly killing Black men, and seeing that happen without any change. It was frustrating. I think that's the best word I can find, but it was frustrating, and you get tired. So, it led us to the streets.
Yes, absolutely. Mary, do you see parallels to that in your in your time with the Panthers, and your kind of their early years of organizing, and then through your whole career of being an activist? Can you share some of what your thoughts are about that?
It's amazing to me, the commitment of young people to their lives and to understanding the context in which they have to live, and that it's a shame that they have to struggle so hard. It was a shame that we had to struggle so hard just to be able to live as everyone else. So my heart goes out to the young people today. And I think even more because I see a much more mass movement of young people. There was a mass movement in the 60s and in the 60s and the early 70s of young people. But I think young people have really kind of expanded their reach in lots of ways, in a way that have embraced other young people from other communities, from other cultures, from other sort of social issues, being very international in their understanding of the world in which they live, understanding the things that we were learning about. They have sort of a deeper understanding. And I think, I can give credit to places like the Freedom School that really has embraced helping young people understand the context of their lives. I would say there's so many parallels. We were also fighting against police brutality. We were also fighting for, schools and fighting for a decent education. We were fighting for, housing and for, getting rid of the slums, so to speak, and making our ability to move freely without harassment possible. And so the parallels are just starkingly similar. And I would say that the passion of young people was so potent then, and is so potent now. And there are a little bit of differences, but I do think that overall, the sort of the courage of young people to speak out, and be willing to understand and be willing to put their lives on the line is so important. We spent a lot of time educating ourselves. In the Black Panther Party, they insisted that we educate ourselves about our world and educate ourselves about the conditions, not just here in our city in the United States, but around the world. So we were international in our understanding of sort of how capitalism, if you want to say that, positions us all in the world. And so we are all connected. So we had a very rigorous educational program. I have to say, I was very honored to be a student at Crane College because there were so many radical opportunities for students. Not only were the students radical, but the faculty was radical. And at some point, the administration was radical. And so there was a sort of a collective. And it's so interesting. I even look at sort of CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union now, and I see how much the teachers have become very radical, and the teachers have embraced parents and families and community members. And we understand that schools are for all of us. Schools are not just these buildings, but they're buildings in our community. They're the village in our community, and everybody has to embrace the struggle. And so, I was privileged to have that experience in my life, to be in a place where I learned from my professors, about social issues and about the forces of oppression that we lived with. And it was an opportunity. The other thing I want to say, that, and we'll probably get into this, so I don't want to go too long, is that I hadn't thought about this until, after the pandemic sort of started, but sort of the importance of mutual aid. And the ability to support each other, and the ability to see our ability to support each other, was very much a part of the Panther program, right? And to see how these young people and these collective radicals around the country were able to quickly come together and support everybody, to support people in the movement, to support people who are suffering in communities. And that is, I think, a parallel that is just so important to how we can envision the future and see ourselves as part of a radical community. So I think I learned a lot of that. I spent a lot of time in the Breakfast for Children program. I spent time in the education program. So there were lots of opportunities.
Oh my. You two have both brought up so many great subjects that I want to segue into and touch on. Like, one, Black youth in the media, and that this film and how this relates to the film, and then mutual aid, and how that is very much like we get to see the mutual aid in action in the film, and that like there has just been an explosion of mutual aid across the country and mutual aid projects, and how beautiful that has been, a way to get involved in community and where you're nurturing and nourishing your community, I am wondering that with regard, let's go back to the Black youth. I think one of our earliest conversations, Mary, when we were planning, the three of us, like what we were going to talk about and getting to know each other, was you had pointed out to me that, or to both of us, that the actors in this film are both they're all like Lakeith Stanfield is 29. He plays William O'Neill. Fred Hampton in reality was only 21 years old. And the importance of how movements have been led in this country and across the world by young people. And that we need to recognize that, and that how powerful would that have been if the film had young people who were actually that age, so that we could see that visibility and the portrayal of Black youth, like in contrast to the portrayal of Black youth that we normally see. And so, Essence, you had talked about that as well, and to even think, like, I don't know, I'm just gonna shout that I'm gonna say this. I don't know if it's okay, but like Essence is 16 years old. When she told us that on our first conversation, it was like we'd already been talking for 45 minutes, and then I was just, my jaw like dropped. I was like, yes, this is exactly what Mary was referencing. Like, I can't believe this woman is 16 years old, and so just so amazing, so on fire, so much passion and intelligence. And can you say more as a young person, Essence, like about your reflections about Black youth in the media,
Yes. Being on camera, this is nerve-wracking. I cannot do it. I'm like, pretend we're having our normal
You go,
conversation.
girl.
I know. Just look at me. Just look at me.
But yes, so I definitely feel as though a lot of times there is erasure of Black youth. Sometimes when it comes to the movement, sometimes in spaces, and sometimes just when it comes to the portrayal of freedom fighters in general. But Black youth have been leading the movement. It is often the youth. I believe that will be attributed to the fact that beyond our physical capabilities in regards to energy and everything, there would be nights when we'd be out there for hours on end, and just it was normal to us after a certain point. I can't see older people doing that, but as well as our open-mindedness and our ability to imagine our future and our passion beyond that, because the ideal is not necessarily about just developing a better future, but it's also the reality for us that we want to influence and have control over our own futures, over our own lives. So when we see older people in these offices making these decisions that ultimately we will have to live with, it becomes extremely problematic. And when we talk about the portrayal of youth, and when we talk about the experiences of Black youth, it is a sensitive topic in the sense that I also don't think that it's touched on enough. But a lot of times, Black women, Black men have to grow up faster because they have to take on, because of the way that trauma influences them. And so as youth, and even just as Black people in general, our exposure to trauma is higher than those of other races. And so therefore our experiences and the way that we choose to internalize those experiences ultimately influences us. And so then they put these narratives on us. And although it's the idea of a beautiful Black woman and a strong Black woman sounds great, it can also be harmful, because then the idea becomes, okay, well, they don't feel. It dehumanizes us in a sense. Black women don't feel that. No, they're so strong. And in a sense, it can become equally, if not more harmful than it is good. And so there's just a lot of different narratives and a lot of different stereotypes and all of that is associated with the idea of youth and just age in general when it comes to Black people. And I think that it is important to definitely acknowledge and to uplift Black youth in the movement and their efforts when it comes to these things.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's everything you said is so powerful essence. And I mean, especially talking about like giving spotlight to the fact that of the trauma and the growing up and the quick growing up that the loss of childhood and that innocence. Thank you so much for giving voice to that. Mary, what are your thoughts on this subject of youth in the media? But also, I think since you opened this up too, that I want to add on to here is women, Black women in the struggle for liberation, because we in the film we see one woman, one very important woman, Deborah Hampton, but the movie is predominantly like profiles all the men in the movement, and I was very excited to see their humanity and portrayed in ways that were deeper than we've ever seen before, or that we've seen in like the big screen in that way, or small screens I suppose now, but what about like women? What is been your experience? Can you give voice to what it means to be a woman in struggle, also in the struggle also? So I guess I was kind of saying that to Mary, but then Essence, if you want to add more on to that from that too, I'd love to hear that as also.
Yeah, I want to just sort of acknowledge what Essence is saying about the experience of trauma for young people. And I don't think people really realize, they're traumatized. Young people are traumatized over and over again, just living in a society that devalues them is traumatic. It's the first traumatic. And then having to fight that oppression and be demonized for their struggle is another double traumatic experience. And so there's got to be places where young people feel cared for. and feel that it's okay to be cared for. And I think this generation does a good job of sort of, collectively playing together and partying together and enjoying each other. And I just hope that it's enough to sort of deal with the experiences that they have faced out on the streets. I also want to say, in terms of women, now there was another woman in the film. Remember, she kind of she was a badass. Okay,
That's right.
badass. Okay,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
I remember that there were some women in the Panther who were badasses. Okay, I wasn't one of them, only because, I wasn't in leadership. So let me just say that I wasn't not in leadership. I was one of the foot soldiers. But it was very important to have foot soldiers. But there's some badass women, and I think that unfortunately, badass women never get the publicity that the badass men get. And so, we all know that women are organizers. Women know how to organize. And as Black women, and maybe as women of color, you grow up organizing your lives. I mean, I had siblings. I had 2 older brothers who didn't know how to do jack shit. And I was the middle sister. So I spent a lot of time working with my brothers, trying to teach them how to do things, even though they were older than me. So in some ways, I felt like I was kind of the matriarch of the family because my mother was gone, and we were in our home with my father. So I think you learn as women. And, they think, oh, you learn how to cook and clean. If you could see my house now, you would say I never learned how to clean. But no, I didn't learn how to cook and clean. I learned how to organize our lives. And very early on was doing things. So I think we have to pay a lot of attention to the fact that women know how to organize. And I think this generation, now the Panthers had women leaders. They weren't always visible, but they did have lots of women leaders. And so, yes, was there sexism and misogyny in the movement? Yes, there was. But there was also women leaders who directed some of the efforts of the Panthers. I think what I feel like now is that I feel as if women are more prominently portrayed and acknowledged in the movement of today. And it's because I look for them and I see them because, we are, their voices are there. Obviously, the men kind of get a lot of the publicity. But I do know that women are much more visible in this work. And, we have a lot of women to thank for that. We have the Black Lives Matter movement. We have the movement for Black lives. We have the Freedom School and a lot of women that are a part of that. We have lots of opportunities in our politics to see women in prominent places. And, let's be very careful to not stereotype them as being, I say badass because I think badass means a lot of things. I don't think badass means hardcore, not soft, and not needing care and love and time and recognition. And I think that we see their skills a lot more now than maybe we did in the past. So I think there's some important parallels, but I think there's a lot more that we see today, and they're playing lots of roles. I mean, the culture, Gertrude. Oh my God, how amazing! How amazing was she? And how amazing are the creative young people who contribute so much of themselves and their knowledge to what's happening now. And I think it's so multidimensional now. So I have to say, you got to pay attention to the misogyny in all these movements, but the language is there. We didn't have the language back in the 60s. We didn't have the frameworks as clearly back in the 60s. And so now there's much more of an understanding of the role that women play and the challenges that women face.
Mm. Mary, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I just want to jump straight to essence, though. Like, what would you like to say about women in the movement? Yeah, in your experience.
Yes, definitely. So I believe that Mary did bring up like a lot of good points. And so and that's not to say that, like, you know, there are definitely some amazing women in the movement now, and as there has been historically. And so I would say that, you know, presently there's been a lot more attention centered around like Black women and organizing. And so there's been a lot more credit awarded. That does not take away from, you know, some of the issues that still happen, but it does open up a conversation of accountability when it comes to these men in these spaces, and about, you know, utilizing their presence and things of that nature. But there are definitely some amazing, amazing women and Black women and women of color present in these spaces who are doing a lot of the work, who are doing a lot of the organizing work, who are leading, who are on the forefronts and on the front lines of these protests, of these actions, and just helping overall. And it's so beautiful to see. It's inspiring to see. And I definitely love it. I'm grateful that these opportunities are present now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I just want to I want to switch to another format in just a second. It's going to be like a game show, maybe, or something like that. But where I'm going to throw out some terms, okay? And I want you to rapid response answer, okay? Like, just give me your quick gut. What's your answer to this one, okay? Like, we're just like in one sentence, 2 sentences, okay? And then I want to open it up for questions and comments from folks who are watching or who joined us here today, okay? So, all right, what do these words, ideas, missions mean to you? 1, Black Pride. Go, Essence.
I think when we talk about Black Pride, it's just about embracing culture, just in its entirety. I think a lot of times that we definitely see like forms of cultural appropriation and things of that nature. Black people are the blueprint. Black people have been the blueprint. So it's about just embracing that and like the confidence that it takes, you know, that's all it is, like from the natural hair to the natural skin to like even like the music and the nails and the whatever, like, you know, we get a lot of different like reactions when it comes to it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's about embracing it completely and in its entirety, regardless of the stereotypes or anything that's been projected onto the Black community.
Excellent. Mary Scaporia, yours.
You know what? She said it perfectly.
Okay.
But I'd say Black self-love. Black self-love in all of its dimension.
Yes. Yes. Okay. That's great. This is a perfect segue for the next one. Are you ready? Mary Scaporia, self-care and self-compassion.
Self-care. Ooh. Hey, recognizing that we are human beings in this earth and that we deserve to be treated as such, and we deserve to have what we need to care for ourselves and care for our needs, and is a right, not a privilege.
Yes. There you go. She said it.
Okay. I'll just do one on one. All right. Abolition. Essence. Jade. Abolition.
Yeah. Dismantling these racist, oppressive, problematic systems that have been too deeply rooted and have contributed to the harm of these multiple different communities, Black, Brown, Indigenous communities for years. It's about tearing it down completely and reimagining a better future for all of us.
Excellent. Mary Scaporia, abolition.
Oh my God. Shut it down. Shut it down.
I know.
We can imagine something new. And I think Essence said it the best. Reimagining spaces where we take care of each other and where we end the carceral state.
Okay. And then, okay, that was good. That's great. Okay, thanks for participating. You both are winners. Okay.
What do we get?
You're both winners today. You're both queens, okay? You're definitely all right. So, I want to open it up now to questions from folks who are joining us today. Thank you, folks, for to everyone who've shown up to hear this and participate in this wonderful forum today. Are there folks with any questions out there for Mary or Essence? Ooh, okay. I see this one from Karen Duval. Hi, Karen. It's great to hear you and see you.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Yes.
Yes, Karen is a long supporter of the Chicago Freedom School. So let me read Karen's question. How have you seen decision-making processes shifting to be more inclusive and less hierarchical? Great question. Great question. Yeah, Mary, let's hear from you first this time.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think there's an understanding of the collective, the strength of the collective, and the importance of all the voices of the collective. And it's a struggle because we have been so sort of indoctrinated and internalized this need to have leaders, one leader, and sort of the pyramid go up. But I think that we have come to realize that we are not going to win anything without sort of the collective. And so, sorry, I'm fixing myself. And so I think that being intentional about how decisions are collaborative, it's hard, but I think that this generation is understanding that and learning that and building their movements with that up front.
Excellent. Essence, what would you like to say?
Yeah, so when we speak on inclusivity and things of that nature, I think it comes from, well, one, just involving everyone in a sense, that understanding like, hey, our struggles are intersectional. You have these problems, we have these problems. Let's work together to, instead of, okay, well, this is a such and such protest. It's like, well, it doesn't just affect you. So let's all collectively work to make these decisions, to make these choices, and to just overall target the problem. And I will also say that just in general, I think that there's been a lot more open-mindedness and a lot more because when we talk about, we don't have all the solutions to everything. So we have to collectively reimagine these things. We have to collectively, and you can't just take into account one person's opinion as well. Because when we ask people about their goals, and you're going to get different answers from everybody. So it's like, what can we collectively agree on that works for everyone? And I think that understanding has become mutual amongst everyone, that, hey, I'm not always in the right, or my opinion does not get to be the dominant one. So let's sit down and like have these conversations. And I think that it proves to be extremely useful in those spaces.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I think we talked about a little bit about this in our planning groups, but one of the most powerful moments is to see how Fred Hampton and the Panthers were organizing all across the city, groups who would not speak to each other, wouldn't look at each other, would, maybe have hate in their hearts in some ways towards each other. When we see him organizing and approaching the Crowns and the Young Patriots, the poor white Southern group, and that just blew my mind. I never heard that piece of history before, and to think of the magnitude of vision, and that is also what we saw in many ways with the protests that were happening this summer and that have been happening since then, and the solidarity that people have come together around to say, look, let's push like some of these other things aside and we will work on those. But what we really need to focus on is seeing the humanity in each other and standing up for each other so that we can have full lives together. So absolutely. Thank you so much. Let's go to Lindsay Smith's. This is powerful. Thank you. Students, teachers, former Panthers, and others are creating curriculum around the Black Panther Party and the original Rainbow Coalition. What topics, questions, actions would you include in this teaching and learning? Mary, I don't know who wants to go first on this one. Essence?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Did you want to go, May?
No, I just saw your mouth open. I like, you got it.
So I definitely think that it's definitely a great idea to discuss like the Black Panther Party and the original Rainbow Coalition. I've had some experiences with Rainbow Coalition as we know it now in Chicago, and it was great. So I would say that it's definitely important to talk about, of course, like given the history and everything. And I think that when you dive deeper into things and like learn about like the root causes and you get the words and all that, the ability to be able to articulate like, okay, hey, this is, yes, this is a problem, but this is contributed to systematic racism, or this is because of redlining. And like when you talk about like segregation in Chicago, like just given extreme history and going in depth, but it's not going to come from, you have to do like your own research and like look into personal accounts. And I think that that's definitely going to be important, like reading autobiographies and things of that nature and including that in the curriculum, because nobody tells our story better than we do. And so having like the words of like Assata Shakur or Fred Hampton or something like that involved, I think will definitely be powerful, because it enables the learners to be able to take into account the people who are actually there.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Mary, what would you?
You know, I want to say one positive thing about the pandemic is that we get to hear from each other on these platforms, whereas before we would have had to show up, drive somewhere, you know, spend a lot of money to get somewhere, or we wouldn't have been able to hear the voices of people from all over. So I think there is now the opportunity to kind of hear people who are actually living these lives speak to young people. I think history is so key, because our history, I mean, Jose Lopez always says this. So this is his, I'm attributing this quote to him. He says, history does not repeat itself. History begs for resolution. And I think we always sort of think, oh, that happened before, it's going to happen again. No, 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 no. We have the ability to reshape our future, to shape our future. And by understanding the past and understanding how that past can follow us if we don't resolve the issues of the current day. So I think making sure that young people understand history, but bring it alive, make it alive. I did not understand and care about history until I was actually involved in making history. So young people have to feel as if they're history makers, and that their lives are history in the making. Show them the parallels. Get them involved in the context. Help them understand how they themselves can be organizers, even if it's a little small thing. What can they do to bring about change? And I think obviously reading and learning from all kinds of different people is so key. So I think that there's so much. And you know what? I know some of these teachers, and I know that they're going to be very creative in the way in which they teach all of this stuff. And I just wish that I was in their classrooms, because I envy the fact that young people now get to learn all of the stuff that I wish that I had learned years ago. So my hands are off to these teachers who are really committed to their young people. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Lindsay Smith.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just feel like, we've been talking. By the way, Mary and Essence and I are now in a book club together. And it's a multi-generational book club. We're reading White Rage because Mary inspired us, and it's books like this and the show Amend. I guess I just do whatever Mary Scott Boria tells me to do, apparently. I was like, and then I'm also watching Amend now. Like, I mean, I would have watched it anyway, but I'm just like, okay, Mary said we better watch it. We're gonna watch it. So then, but like all these things bring things, these new. Okay, so these new formats and these new voices, bringing things and giving so much life to these narratives that were just flat and maybe a paragraph in our history books that we grew up with. And I was just marveling at Amend, who my friend Brandy Lish was also inspired me to watch, and she's been watching it. She's here with us today, and she and it's just. watching everything. It's not just this picture of Frederick Douglass with like strange eyes and this black and white, like, you know, photograph thing from, you know, a long time ago that makes everybody look strange. They bring this alive in a way that it feels so right now. So like, this is what's happening, these parallels that are bringing up. And I want to thank you both for talking about the parallels to the generations that you're having with both of sorry, I'm reading comments and then my daughter's coming in, so I'm a little okay, but building these parallels to what is happening right now. And I think that more than anything, what we see with the film is how we are in this moment now as well, how now is the time to engage, right? Now is the time to see our power and to like use it to lift everyone up and be in community with each other and support each other. And I love seeing Essence's like you know, sovereignty over her own self-care right now. Like when she went and got like a warm sweater to put it on, she's like, I'm in the middle of talk, but I need my sweater right now because I am cold. And that is what we need. Like, what are our human needs and how can we tend to them and make space for those in every way?
Can I jump in and say one thing?
Yes.
We were talking about the Panthers and the Rainbow Coalition. There was a panel. There was a panel on this week with many folks who were involved in those various groups that the Panthers brought together, and I missed it. And so, if anybody out there saw it, I'm sure it was fabulous. And if it's up somewhere, if you could send me a link, I would love to see it. But I know some of my friends who were involved 30 years, 40, 50 years ago were speaking. And so I think it was a wonderful opportunity to bring those groups back together again.
That is like that's like segues really or connects really well to what Brandy Licious just chimed in. Thanks, Brandy, for joining us today. I've known Brandy since we were 10. She's like she is my oldest friend. So history is begging for its resolution. Such a beautiful phrase, considering the statement, do parallels of this summer's events give you hope or frustration that things haven't progressed further? That is such a great question. Yes, because these parallels of like where we are right now, like, oh, where have we gotten? Where have we gone? You know, what progress have we made? So what are your thoughts about that? Essence?
I am full of hope. I'm extremely hopeful for what the future has to hold. Even this summer and the summers to come after it and the summers to come after those. I believe that although we did not see the change in which we desired, we also did put pressure. We also showed and displayed like the power of the youth. We displayed the power of like just everyone, honestly, people power. And that was extremely evident this summer. Again, we didn't harness the reaction that we wanted to, not in this moment, but I do not feel as though it'll go long without reaching, our resolutions. I definitely think that things will progress. Everything takes time and it'll be gradual. We can see even historically how long some efforts of other groups things didn't.
Sorry about that. Can we just jump in here for a second? Maya wants to ask a question. This is my daughter, Maya, everyone. How old are you, Maya? 5. And Maya has been very much a part of our planning and our conversations, which I love. Today, she's been watching TV while we've been doing this to minimize our interruptions. But she wanted to ask you both a question, if that's okay. Maya, what's your question for Mary and Essence?
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yeah.
Chicken Alfredo. That's my favorite.
Ooh, you love noodles, don't you? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have so many favorites. It depends on the day. And I would say yesterday was Chinese. I wish that I could go get some Indian today. And I have to eat healthy, so that cuts out some things that I would like. But I might have some catfish later.
Thank you. My favorite food is
What's your
sushi.
favorite food? What's your favorite food?
My favorite food is sushi.
Sushi
Oh,
is good.
right. I like that too.
Yes, you have a good taste.
Thank you too. You know,
Sushi. Who would have known a 5-year-old?
oh, that's right. Another generation of power. Absolutely. That's what I'm raising her for, you know? And so I want to get close here soon. But I want to close with some words from you, Essence, and that Brandy's question gives us a great segue for this too. And Mary, please chime in here as well. But how can we plug in? What does the world need now? What do we need to be doing now? Tell us what to do. Okay, tell us what to do, Essence. Tell us what to do, Mary. How can we get involved in the revolution or continue? What's the best way to support the work you're doing and to get involved?
So I would definitely say that the start, I would suggest that everyone pick up some books. I think that is genuinely, we have so many resources available at our disposal that people tend to take for advantage. And I think that a lot of times there's different confusion and like a lot of we're presenting a lot of new topics. There's a lot to take in. And so I believe that you can definitely start by educating yourself. And that looks like, reading online, reading books, researching. If you have questions about what defunding looks like, or if you have questions about abolition, of course you can reach out to your abolitionist friend, but they may be exhausted, So even like reading and again, looking up and finding these resources and taking advantage of those that are at your disposal. I heavily recommend. And then from there, once people have educated themselves enough to understand the movement and to understand the revolution, then I would suggest, utilizing your body if able, physically in these spaces, volunteering, showing up. And even if you can't do that, everyone's online now. So at least sharing is all it takes sometimes. Retweeting or sharing a post to your Instagram story or reposting it, whatever. There's so many ways to get involved now, but I would definitely, again, suggest starting with educating. So.
Thank you. And I kind of want to just jump in here and add supporting wonderful organizations that are doing this work already, like the Chicago Freedom School, supporting the Chicago Freedom School with volunteering and especially through donations. Please support this great work. I remember the summer when Tony was tweeting or on Facebook sending out posts saying, I'm at Chicago Freedoms. We're at the office, and the police are here, and we're afraid that, and we're offering protection and shelter for young people, and and this is what we need. We're out here, giving bottles of water and masks, and supporting the efforts out there. And this is what the revolution looks like. So supporting organizations and supporting the Chicago Freedom School, I think, makes a huge difference to cultivate and grow leaders like Essence, and organizations that amplify these brilliant young leaders' voices. Yes, Mary, do you?
Yeah, I was going to say send money. Send money. And, I just had a thought, and I hadn't thought of this before. But, I don't get out in the streets too much anymore because of my age. But there are lots of other things that I can do to be supportive. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to just make a meal every now and then for these young organizers and show them that, we still that we're here and that we care for them and that we know that they're out here on, whatever little breath of sustenance they have, but that we could support them and we could support their efforts in lots of ways. And I think to be mindful that every generation has something to give and to figure out what it is and to give it.
Definitely.
Thank you both so much. It has been such an honor to sit in conversation with you today, and in the hours and hours that we've talked already planning. I mean, I thought we'd be our first conversation. I thought like, okay, well now we'll just do everything by email, but instead we had like 3 other multi-hour conversations since then, because we're talking, we're just being in community with each other is so empowering, is so powerful.
And we're now in a book group with each other.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. And so, yes. And thanks to Maya. Now we know
What we're reading.
Yes. Read that. Read White Rage. It is so powerful. Do you want to say what it is? Essence, you tell us about White Rage. Just do one sentence. What do you think?
Oh goodness. Now I'm on the spot.
Oh, sorry. I won't go through that. But thank you.
I'm the newest member.
Yeah. Anybody who wants to join our book group, you're welcome. It's a beautiful multi-generational book group, and we talk about everything and a little bit about the book. Okay, too. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to Tony. I came with him with this idea, like, how about we talk about we do some chocolate and peanut butter magic here with Mary Scott Borey and the Chicago Freedom School. And so thank you so much, Tony, for picking this up and saying yes to everything. This has just been beautiful experience working with all of you. I want to open up to Tony. I think you might have some closing remarks. Just thank you. There he is. Yay.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone out there is also sending their love, their little hearts, sending likes. But I just want to thank, of course, Kristen for facilitating this conversation and for bringing this work to CFS and for always supporting and uplifting the young folks that we work with. Of course, I want to thank Mary Scott Boria, who is just a true honor to have your support at Chicago Freedom School for throughout our existence. We are celebrating 15 years next year, so we're so thankful for your support. Yes, you've been there from the start. And of course, my bestie, Essence J, for your brilliance and your power and your joy and your hope. And for just building and receiving all this like rage and joy and really representing Chicago Freedom School on these streets and introducing us in Chicago Freedom School to so many other powerful and amazing young people like Gertrude from Black Rising. So I know Gertrude is probably at work right now, but I want to thank her so much as well. And just the beauty and fierceness and amazingness of women and femmes of color. It would, thank you all. So now, as we close out this afternoon, again, thank you all for joining us. We hope that you were able to receive little nuggets from this conversation. I know I definitely did and appreciated, being a voyeur in this space. I also want to thank, again, Kristen, Essence, Mary, and Gertrude. And thank everyone for being here. We want to make sure that if you want to see more of this programming, let us know. We are committed to making sure that we still build intergenerational dialogue and conversations throughout this pandemic. So, and if you have other ideas of how we can build community through this platform, let us know. You can always email us at info@chicagofreedomschool.org. You can check us out on our website, www.chicagofreedomschool.org, and check us out on social media. I'm sure Essence is going to hate me for ruining the social media plug. We have, join us at Chai Free School, that's CHIFREESCHOOL, Chai Free School on Twitter, on Instagram, and then of course, if you're here on Facebook or our YouTube channels, we are here. I want to thank our team for all the support throughout the summer and as the start of the new year over at CFS, our board members, of course, as well as you all. You are making, you are supporting us in making this work possible, and we could not do it without you. Thank you so much. We look forward to continuing to build and seeing you out in the streets this summer. or in your homes, and knowing that we still have your support and your beautiful positive energy. So thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful afternoon, and we'll see you soon.